when people ask me about my opinion about what Kagiso Mogola had to say, specifically about gay people in South Africa, gay Zulu people, I'm not sure why you guys are not seeing that this is a dog whistle. Back in 2023, I read this incredible study that was aiming to trace the origins of homophobia in Lesotho, specifically homophobia targeted towards Sotho lesbians. Back in 2023, I read this incredible study that was aiming to trace the origins of homophobia in Lesotho, specifically homophobia targeted towards Sotho lesbians. Good afternoon, my big stars. It is I, the brightest star, Lethabo Maluke, the host of your favorite podcast, Young, Popular, and Opinionated. In the words of the artist Dean Hudson, this podcast creates soft spaces for hard conversations. And what's harder than today's conversation? Honestly, guys, I think whenever someone is homophobic on a public platform, it's honestly like them trying to make fetch happen, and there will never be anything fetch about homophobia, especially if you're a public figure who has a responsibility to use their platform with care, right? And I think when people ask me about my opinion about what Kagiso Mogola had to say, specifically about gay people in South Africa, gay Zulu people, I'm not sure why you guys are not seeing that this is a dog whistle for rigid gender roles. I know we all love to say, oh my gosh, society is becoming more conservatism. But have you ever considered why and how that is promoted to you? So obviously, this goes hand in hand with the economy. When people are more homophobic, more misogynistic, more racist, it's an economic indicator. I always say hunger is at the bottom of bigotry. But the problem is, a lot of people can't spot when they're being sold bigotry because in the heat of the moment, it gets to shift the blame. But let me take it back, just a little bit. So I know this is going to go into like American realms a bit, but do you guys remember when Sydney Sweeney was under fire for that blue jeans ad? Essentially it was with American Eagle, and she said, oh my gosh, genes are passed down from a parent to child, and with determining traits like hair color, skin color, and my genes are blue. Obviously, if you are not thinking about this ad critically, she's simply promoting genes. But in all honesty, it's eugenics. Because what you're saying is, if you buy and associate with this brand, it gains you proximity and access to the Aryan race, to white supremacy, to white beauty standards, white respectability politics, right? And more importantly, that's how they sell sex. I mean, if you think about Sydney Sweeney's other ad, which was, I believe, she was selling either body wash, shampoo, or soap that had some of her bath water inside. Again, you're asking yourself, what does this have to do with it? You were talking about eugenics, now you're talking about her using sex appeal. But that's the thing. Promoting rigid gender roles relies heavily on the over-sexualization of women, right? And you cannot do it without tapping into very and deeply misogynistic territory. So I think this conversation ties in so well with what we had to say about the defeminization of the dolls, especially from a brand perspective, because a lot of people are asking, why is it that all these feminine presenting gay men, queer men, are all of a sudden becoming muscular, becoming aggressive, putting, toothpicks in between their teeth and getting angry and aggressive? And I'm like, it's all part of this ploy to sell the rigid gender roles to you, right? Because when our economy is suffering, it's not really my fault. It's not the people on the set's fault. It's not the fault of the people who are going to watch and listen to this podcast. It is the fault of our government. But the easiest way to shift the blame is to blame a minority. I'm not sure how many of you were keeping up with what was going on, like right at the beginning of COVID, like right when COVID hit, right? And it was also around the same time that MultiChoice aired Somizi's wedding. It was also on Showmax, I believe. And a handful of people were like celebrating the fact that, oh my gosh, like it's so revolutionary for us to have a real life queer South African couple being televised, being platformed, and we get to see their love story. And also some people were just in awe of the glamour and the bling and how expensive and extravagant everything was. But there was so much backlash related to the fact that MultiChoice is intentionally destroying family views. They're promoting devilism. They're promoting this evilness, right? And then some people attempted to piggyback right off that to say that is why South Africa is suffering from COVID. Now, I have a question for people who believe that South Africa is suffering, because Nizam Kunu also said that the reason why South Africa is in such a tight spot economically, socially, even in terms of safety and crime, is because we allow gay people to roam freely, and because our government allows gay people to roam freely, our punishment for allowing the works of the devil to roam free is the fact that we get to suffer. What does he have to say about what's happening in Uganda? Uganda has some of the most anti-LGBTQ laws I have ever witnessed in my lifetime. They had COVID, they have poverty, they have famine, they have water issues. So are they also in the category of being punished by God because they don't allow people? I mean, even when you think about a country like the UAE, right? Yes, it's this perfect utopia, but they have their own fair share of ills. But in general, I could cut this short by saying every other country in Africa where being gay is outlawed suffers more than we do. And are they categorized as being punished because they allow gay people to roam free? I mean, they're stoning gay people to death. I mean, in countries like Uganda, if you're a gay rights activist, that's seen as aggravated homosexuality. It's seen as like promotion of homosexuality. If you lay with another man, it's seen as like pedophilia, even though you're two consenting adults. Is their poverty also punishment from God? Would he think the same? I don't think so, because they do not trace the origin of their thoughts. They don't understand that they're falling victim to the scheme. But you know what? Before I get too wrapped up in that, let's come back to SA very quickly because I want to keep it here. I think it's very interesting that in the midst of people complaining about who and what is promoting the devil's works, those are the same people that are behind the Jerry Springification of SA media. So I'm sure a lot of you have seen that trailer of that show featuring Cyan Bougie, where she's gonna tell us the dark secrets of, essentially being a semi-sex worker, even though you're an influencer. Keep that in mind. Think about how Tando, the little girl, I don't know how old she is now. She's famous and notorious for not having a matric, but doing everything that people with matrics do. I remember when I was in matric, actually, during our finals, so many of us had forgotten to bring our IDs to school. And you know how in matric, Uma Lucy does those like checks to see if your school is compliant. I mean, a lot of IB schools get deregistered if they're not compliant during matric finals especially. And he was like, you guys are old enough to smoke, to have kids, to drink. You're doing all of that, but you're not studying for this English exam and bringing your ID along with it. You'll get the school closed. And that's exactly how I feel about Tando, right? Think about her. Think about the platforming of Ghost Hlubi, right? And this dynamic we see between them and Sima. All of those things. Think about those two things. That is honestly how a lot of brands, how a lot of mainstream media is promoting rigid gender roles and piggybacking off of this demise of society. But you guys don't see it as that because it's being done by heterosexual people. I have always said the reason why there's such a war on abortion, why there's such a war on like sexual liberation, contraception, access to it, the treatment of STDs, is because number one, pregnancy is supposed to be a death sentence and a consequence. But more importantly, capitalism requires a desperate workforce. They need people to keep making babies so they can have a poor workforce that they can exploit. If you are a poor person with 5 children and your president or a minister is sitting in the news, not addressing the fact that we are the rape capital of the world, the GBV capital of the world. We have one of the highest rates of unemployment, especially youth unemployment. Not addressing that, but they're going to go for 4 hours talking about our declining birth rate. And they will blame the birth rate on the existence of gay people. They'll blame it on sexual impurity, but they will never say people cannot afford to have babies. And unfortunately, all the people that I have previously mentioned work perfectly in the scheme of promoting exactly that. Because what they are essentially promoting is the possibility of sex that that results in the birth of a child. And I don't understand why people have not clocked that sooner. Because I would ask someone like Nizo Mkunu, how do you feel about the fact that people talk about girls like Babalo and Tando and talk about their private parts? Like, no one should ever be comfortable to speak about two children in relation to having sex with an Amapiano DJ and who gave him the better time, right? No one should be doing that. But the problem is, this promotion of rigid gender roles also works hand in hand with having unfiltered sexual desire for children. And that's also something people have not clocked. That a huge part of this weird, white supremacist, heteronormative machine is pedophilia. I love the fact that people will always push pedophilia as like the burden of queer people to carry, but not talk about the fact that the organized stalker for Amapiano DJs are two 16-year-old girls. And when people call her out for not having a matric, everyone is like, well, she should be able to do what she wants. She's old enough, right? She's old enough. She's old enough to sleep with the DJ, but when it comes to getting a matric, she's not old enough to know what she's doing. She's just a child, give her a second chance. But when you guys want to have unlimited sexual relations with her, all of a sudden she's old enough. It's also how I felt about brands literally putting her in posters. I was like, they're fully utilizing the fact that her image is built around scandal and pedophilia. And I know for a fact that they're using that portion of sex appeal, I don't even want to call it that, to sell. And, oh my gosh, it's a lot. Like, I've been thinking about this for like the last 2 weeks and really reflecting upon it because I didn't want to be like the first person to have a take or the last person or the best take. But it's very interesting to me that in the midst of all of the promotion of all these bad things, you never discuss that. And the next issue, oh my God, like I don't want to seem like I'm pointing fingers. Femininity, in the way that people despise it, is so interesting to me because I think femininity and masculinity are obviously energies. It's not a set of things that you perform. Anything I do that I deem feminine or you deem feminine or someone else deems feminine can be feminine. If I feel like I express my femininity by getting gel applied on my nails or by wearing these flower-shaped earrings, then that's how I express it. But the way femininity is phrased in this promotion of these rigid gender roles is, I don't know, service to men. It's very much, how much can you deliver for men? Can you procreate? Blah, 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 blah. Because if your femininity is not defined by relation to men, then again, you betray the system. You don't ever set yourself up to give your womb up to a man, but you're not really giving up to the man. You're giving it up to the system. And when you give it up to the system, you're just feeding into capitalism, blah, 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 blah. Like, we all know that, right? And so when it comes to, I guess, the bastardization and like this resentment towards feminine gay people, you guys need to realize very quickly, is that they can never set up their femininity in a way that could help them reproduce with men. The thing is, if a man is feminine, right? And we're celebrating his femininity, whether he's queer or whatever, especially if he's queer. And we're talking about now the defeminization of the dolls again. If this man is feminine, you're taking him away from the capitalist project. You are pulling him away from the prospect of being someone who could potentially procreate naturally with a woman. If you encourage him to go the opposite of the rigid gender role and he is coupled up with another man, none of them are going to get pregnant and feed into the capitalist system. And that's the real tea. And like, it sounds very conspiracy theory, like, in a way, but if you really think about it, that's the truth. Like, they are just desperate for more people to make babies for them. And unfortunately, back to the defeminization of the dolls, there is algorithmic bias, right? The thing is, these thirst traps sell. Sex sells, yes, but the thirst traps sell. Someone being able to be sexualized sells. But brands actively need to push you towards baby making. There's this underlying tone of, you need to make a baby, or else it doesn't work. Phenomenal. Just inspiring. I'm in awe. Phenomenal. Just wow. Mind blown. But anyway, there's something else. There's something else that I find so deeply fascinating. And this is more to like a cultural perspective. And don't come for me. I'm also going to reiterate the specific part on TikTok because I'm going to need everyone with ears to hear it. Back in 2023, I read this incredible study that was aiming to trace the origins of homophobia in Lesotho, specifically homophobia targeted towards Sotho lesbians. The severity of it and what is the relationship to Lesotho society to homoerotic relationships. So obviously, there's hostility and bigotry directed towards gay men, very obvious, very clear, very, in broad daylight, it's obvious, it's common, slapped. But they said they didn't find any homophobia towards Lesotho lesbians, not because it doesn't exist, but because the society is so deeply patriarchal that they cannot conceive the fact that women can make independent sexual decisions that do not revolve around men. So essentially they're saying women are not smart enough to decide that they're not attracted to men. That is what they're saying. Right? They're saying women do not know how to define sexuality if it's not directly related to men. That's what they're saying. And I'd argue that the same exact thing is happening in the Zulu patriarchy, but on a much larger scale. What I've always found interesting about the Zulu patriarchy and Zulu homophobia, especially with regards to what Kagiso Mogola had to say about gay people, so Mizi, the consequences of us allowing gays to roam freely, is that he doesn't even realize that his whole rant, he was dissing women. There's a specific brand of homophobia that Zulu people in this country engage in that just disses women. Like, they will start their rant saying, I'm going to talk about gay people. But if you listen carefully, he's talking smack about women. Not one thing that you've said has directly had something to do with gay people and has had everything to do with how you view women's position in society. And unfortunately, trigger warning mentions of sexual violence and rape. Zulu men specifically cannot engage in homophobia without directly promoting rape culture. So I saw this post a couple of weeks ago, and it was an international case where this young boy was gang raped by men. And obviously, things, especially now that South Africa is no longer secret, South Africans make their presence known in comment sections. Nikona, question mark with South African flag, or, marking the register 7:59, 2:13 a.m. And there was a handful of Zulu men specifically who were saying, I don't understand why these men gang raped this young teenage boy where there are no women around. So you're saying that this isn't wrong because a young boy was raped. It's wrong because they should have raped a girl or a woman instead. Right. But here's the thing. The Zulu patriarchy thrives on women being anonymous. You know how we always have these conversations about how men talk about sex as something that is done to women and not women? Well, I'd argue that they're not even doing it to women because they don't think women are human beings. They think women are simply these vessels to unload aggression. Go watch my video about all the research I did on what porn is doing to your brains. But they consider women to be like these anonymous beings. It's like right now there are 3 women in the studio, and how the Zulu patriarchy functions, they don't exist. It's not even that they'll be seen and not heard, they don't exist. It's like you're laying in bed with a shadow. They thrive on anonymity, and that's also why I'd argue that the reason why the rape statistics will always be so high in this country, apart from the fact that we can report is because a lot of them don't consider rape to be an actual crime, because for it to be a crime, you'd actually have to be raping a person. And if they don't think women are people, then what is the crime? I'm simply having sex. Because that's also why, even back to that issue with them gang raping that little boy, they make rape seem like an issue of overwhelming horniness and not an issue of domination, humiliation, and control. But right now, you're probably wondering and asking yourself, what does this have to do with the topic at hand, and that is homophobia? Guys, hear this. A lot of Zulu men cannot conceive the fact that we do not engage in the same politics of sexualization the same way they do, right? Because when I was younger, and I think by younger, I started TikTok. I'm 21 now, but I started when I was about 19. And obviously this year I've been more consistent. I found my niche. I found my way I want to like structure my thoughts, my videos, But when I first started, I realized very early on that a lot of men cannot engage meaningfully with anything that I have to say. It's and not even to say that I'm so, you know what, yeah, it's true, they're dumb shit, I am smarter than them, but they cannot engage in a very good and meaningful way. Yes, they're not in the same intellectual bracket, but they resort to bigotry. Their itch for homophobia is so itchy that even if they genuinely agreed and wanted to add to the conversation, they have to be loyal to bigotry. But they would leave these very weird and very sexually invasive comments like, chocolate box, babu lendu, no, whatever. And if I was still 19, I promise you those comments would send me into a coma. But now that I'm 21, if someone leaves a comment like that on my post, I'm like, you're not actually saying a word to me or about me. You're dissing women. Because oftentimes they'll say chocolate box, njani, ikuku ining. And I'm like, again, that's not a compliment to women. You're threatening women. Because here's the thing, even if I was a straight man, what gives you the impression that I have unlimited sexual access to women? Being a straight man does not guarantee you sexual access to women. Or when they see a curvaceous woman online and then they say, oh, Lona, again, just because you're sexually attracted to her, that does not automatically gain you sexual access. It's not the same thing. Never been the same thing. Will never be the same thing, right? But also, when you describe these gay sexual relations as aggressive, like they're tearing you up, go tear a woman up. Why are you saying you're tearing a woman up? You're threatening her with rape, not sex. It's like something I've always said about how I feel very uncomfortable befriending heterosexual men because they cannot fight the urge of misogyny. I remember 2 years ago, I was hanging out with this guy. In Hatfield, from Virgin Active to like the direction of like the Burger King and the pharmacy and the dentist and like under the fields. There was this girl, she was walking to the gym. She's a gym baddie. And the guy I was hanging out with at the time was like, yo, you see, yeah, Mona, Lona, oops. And I'm like, again, a stranger is walking by. You are sexualizing a stranger. Just because you're sexually attracted to her doesn't inherently make your interaction or lack thereof sexual, and it doesn't automatically grant you sexual access to her. That is not a thing. And they think gay men engage in the same politics of sexualization. They think gay men, when they see other men, they do that same thing. And I'm not saying we don't have freaky frogs in the community, but that's their metric of measuring the sexual boundaries of other people. They measure them against themselves. But here's the other thing that I've always said about Zulu homophobia is that they have degraded women to the point where they feel like gay men are depriving themselves of the opportunity to do the same thing. They're like, we get to rape women, we get to beat women, we get to call women stupid, we get to call women hoes that we don't know. Why are you gay and depriving yourself of the privilege of being a misogynist? I've always said, do you know how many men hate gay men because they honestly feel like they should be taking advantage of the fact that they have misogyny in their hands? Do you know how many homophobic men feel like gay men are wasting time and they should be using their time and their energy, their body and their manhood to be misogynistic? Because I can assure you, if you ask Nizam how he feels about women, ask him how he feels about abortion, about women having jobs, about women contributing in the household, women having opinions in the household, women being in positions of leadership. Ask him how he feels about that. He's going to talk shit about women for 5 minutes straight. And what's so funny is that the Zulu women who are like piggybacking, like, oh my gosh, our leader has spoken. You don't even realize that the whole time he was dissing you. Because that's the thing with internalized misogyny and being literally socialized and engineered to, you know, the end result is for you to give it up for yourself. Like, you need to give yourself up to the thing. I said this about Mogelings, and I'll say it again. Why do you guys think that particularly the Zulu women in his comment section, now that he's more mask presenting, why do you think those Zulu women, their first instinct was to say, when ungang rape, you can rape me, oh my gosh. What did I say earlier on? They're socialized and groomed to being anonymous. They consider women to be anonymous. So now the women have also considered themselves anonymous and they're giving themselves like, oh my gosh, like, I don't exist, just take me. And also, here's the next issue. There's a specific brand of like homophobia that Zulu women in particular, because if we're going to talk about Nizwe Mkhunu, we're going to talk about you too, because Liamo support. There's this specific type of homophobia that they engage in that I've always found so fascinating, derogatory in brackets. And you know what they do? Let me tell you what they do. So, as I said, femininity is policed so heavily in the sense that if it's not defined by your domestic capabilities, you know, childbearing, and handling of the home and the house, then your femininity is useless. But a lot of Zulu men love to make fun of women, right? They love to make fun of women. And what I mean by women being made fun of, you know, in primary school, guys, one of the most hurtful things, right? Someone could call you stupid, someone could call you ugly, someone could call you all these different things, right? But do you guys understand how, like, I guess dehumanizing it is for someone to look you in the face and laugh at you? Like, imagine you tell your mom, I think I want to go back to school and go study law, and then she just laughs at you in your face. Degrading. Like, I literally remember being at a house party like 3 years ago, and like I made up with this guy, don't even ask. And while we were outside, we were just like sitting, and there were these group of men, they just laughed at us. Like, you know when someone mocks you? So I think in the Zulu patriarchy, there's a lot of just laughing at women and making them feel small and making them feel like anything that they want to do and feel and think is stupid. That's what I've always said. The patriarchy steals women's ability to have an imagination, to have a sense of humor, to have self-esteem, to have interests, but to also see themselves as anything bigger than an asset or a possession to a man. So now, with that being said, they do this very weird thing, Zulu women, where if they see a heteronormative queer couple, if they're two men, for example, the one is short. Actually, let me give you a real life example that you can look at. There's this couple on TikTok, two couples. The one, I forget his name, but he's a house husband and he does the lifestyle vlogs. Him and his husband have a child and his husband is often overseas on work. And then there's also this other couple that has a very similar dynamic, but the only difference with that one is they don't have a child yet, and the husband is slightly older, but they're both over the age of 30, right? And with the second one, and I noticed this more with the second one, because they have these defined gender roles, it's just an appearance thing. It's not really like, we don't know these people's personal lives. We just see their couple content. The one looks feminine, the one looks masculine. The Zulu woman in the comment section was saying, I feel like you are too masculine to be with that one. You should be with me. So they have this weird thing where they think that feminine gay men who are in relationships with masculine men are stealing masculine men away from them. Boo, boring, tired. But also, they have this resentment because you're not a woman, but you have nails. You get to be a stay-at-home husband. You're treated like a queen. You get to be girly. You get to have a sense of humor. You get to be spoiled. They feel like it's unfair that they are actual women, but their men do not allow them to be feminine. You're not an actual woman, but your man allows you to be. And they have this weird resentment towards feminine gay men for that. They think, oh my gosh, like, how come you get to do the things that my stupid ass man would never let me do? And I noticed it a long time ago. But also, they measure homosexuality by how masculine a man can be. So they have the scale of aggression. I think Zulu women are socialized not to be attracted to men because of companionship, because of intellect, because of money, because of compatibility, but because of masculine aggression. The most manliest one. I'm going to give an example with Sam Deep. You know Sam Deep, the man who made Shella, our favorite song at the moment, right? In the promo of the song, guys, the song is called Shella. That's courting. Courting, that's the name of the song, right? And in the promo videos for the song, as part of the promo strategy, he's courting Buhle in one, courting Nia Pearl in the other. Here comes Shaga's grandchildren saying, Uyamona lo uyishimani. And I'm like, again, why do you think that a man, firstly, you're schizophrenic, right? You guys are descending slowly into psychosis because it's fictional. What did Britney Spears say back in the 2000s when she was in that movie and she had to kiss a guy in the movie and they asked her, how does your real life boyfriend feel about you kissing a guy in a movie? And she was like, it's pretend, we're adults, you should know that. It's the same thing. Firstly, it's fiction, it's not real. If you don't know what marketing is, if you don't know what a script is, if you don't know what acting is, if you don't know why the music business has to promote to sell, like the fact that you heard the song on radio, on Trace Urban, in an ad, you got it. It was promoted to you, okay? Spotify's algorithm, it was promoted to you. People need to make money, duh. But anyway, it's pretend. But even in this fictional setting, you get a handful of South African men, particularly those who are Zulu and homophobic, saying you can tell this man looks too feminine to actually get a woman. What's feminine about courting a woman? Now, I've always said, I'm going to stand by this. The reason why dating debates and dating politics and dating this, dating that will always be trendy, half of it is because of the economy. All of you are too broke. And you're looking for power dynamics because the thing is, back in the day, you could either both afford to give each other a good life and be equal partners, or one could genuinely afford to foot the bill. Now, both of you can't afford to breathe, right? That's a bulk of the dating conversations. Both of you can afford to breathe, but one of you is looking for power in this breathlessness, right? But the second thing is, South African men are dating you guys to rape you. Like, I hate to break it to you. They want to set up conditions where it's easier access to rape you. The thing is, I've always hated this idea that, like, you know, when guys say, I bought this hand flowers, I paid for her Uber, I even got her a ring, a necklace, jewelry, I paid for the entire bill, I took her on the dinner, and then we went to pantry for dessert, and I got a hug and a kiss on the cheek. And I'm like, what did you want to get? What did you want to get? And the thing is, it's not about hitting on the first link, but it's about this premeditated notion of the fact that you think those things grant you sexual access to someone. And that's coercion, my babe. And if it's coercion, then it's rape. I've always said that when they're like, oh my gosh, like, oh, come to my house, I'll cook, or cook for me. Guys, they want to rape you. There was a girl who shared her story about how she was like being asked out by a guy in her complex, and he invited her over, and he said he's gonna like bribe for them on like his balcony. He invited 3 of his friends to this date, and they gang raped her here in your country because they're looking for easier access. Guys, I understand that we're living in South Africa, and when there's a South African man, rape can occur, but like, it's harder to do that in a restaurant in Woodmead packed with niggas. Because it's harder for them to do that. And that's what I'm saying. Every time someone makes a homophobic comment, it always goes back to rape culture. Like, people cannot be homophobic without directly calling themselves rapists. Because look at this. We just did a deep dive into how you being homophobic to Sam Deep just revealed your rapist desire. Guys, I clocked this a long time ago. If you're homophobic, you're probably also a rapist. Just saying. Just saying. Just saying. Just saying. Just saying. And honestly, guys, I don't know what more else to say about this thing. Like, if you are engaging in homophobia, you are so low vibrational, you are so low frequency, you are so 2010, like, oh, you are so boring. Because another issue with Ngizwe Mchunu, and I want to need people to understand this, gay rights are enshrined in the Constitution. We're not in America, babe. Like, gay rights cannot be erased because what does he do? What does he do, guys? He appeared on my FYP once last year, and I clicked not interested, and he hasn't appeared since. Remember when Nicki Minaj dissed Mariah Carey? And the interviewer asked Mariah Carey, oh my gosh, are you the bitch Nicki Minaj was talking about in the song? She was singing about you. And Mariah Carey was like, I didn't know she sang or whatever. I thought she rapped. Or like when they asked her how she felt about J-Lo throwing shade, she was like, I don't know her. Same thing with Ngizwe Mchunu. I don't know her. I don't know Ngizwe Mchunu. I don't know her. Like, we're the gay ones, but he's the only one who's butthurt, like he's bottoming. Like, I don't know her. What does he do? Like, please, guys, when you see, once the snippets of this podcast drop, or when it gets one, please tell me what he does for a living, because I am not looking that up. I don't care. Like, I don't care. Like, Ngizwe Mchunu is like Charlie Kirk. I cannot taba. Like, oh my gosh. Like, oh, again with Charlie Kirk, R.I.P. cutie, but you were just a podcaster. You and I had the same job. You're not special. You and I, same field, nothing. And you need to understand that because we're not in America, if you say we must do away with gay rights, that's unconstitutional. The same constitution that allows black people to vote, my babe. So if you want gay rights to be eradicated, also be comfortable with black people never voting ever again. Be comfortable with dumb buses coming back. Like, it's not a suggestion. It's in the Constitution. Read the law. It's also with him being turned back at my right? When he was turned back and they're like, oh, you can't come in. Oh my gosh, like, we don't want you. Like, da-da-da-da-da-da. The thing is, you need to understand that Joburg has an economy built on gay people. Maboneng, Bram, Newtown, those three places in Joburg CBD, gay people are carrying them here on their back. So economically, it wouldn't make sense for a place like Ant Club, for a place like Club AM, for My, all these places, right? Even in Melville or Auckland Park, it would make no logical sense for them to say, you know what, this Zulu, again, I don't know her. I don't know her. I don't know what she does. Person doesn't want us to allow gay people, let's turn them away. They're all gonna be broke, they won't have money. Imagine if Liquid Blue closed. Imagine if Rats closed, antisocial, and said we don't want to do business with gay people. Imagine that. Where will the money be? But also, if we allow the opinions and feelings of people like that to interfere with how we interact with human beings on a daily basis, we are going to turn into America. America had all these baseless debates about gay rights until certain states had the Don't Say Gay bill. All because people like Nizam Mkhunu in America were allowed to say things like that for years, and then all of a sudden it's influencing the law. Like, I think people need to honor the Constitution before they honor again. I don't know what she does. What does she do? Like, what does she do? What's her career? I don't know what she does. Before we honor whoever she is, we have to honor the Constitution. Just saying. But yeah, and also another thing with his little smear campaign against Somizi, I'm gonna tell you something. You see all of that I said about whatever. He just feels like Somizi shouldn't be gay because he's Zulu. Like, that's the only reason why he thinks Somizi shouldn't be gay. It's because he's Zulu. As I said, the Zulu patriarchy has no imagination. The Zulu patriarchy has no concept of you being a sexual being or having autonomy that is in relation to heterosexuality. Because the gay wedding that he was crashing out over, sorry guys, the two men in the equation, the one was Xhosa, the one was Zulu. He said, you know what he said about the Xhosa man? He was like, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. It's not even an issue of there shouldn't be gay people. So he thinks there shouldn't be gay Zulu people. If Somizi was Tswana, Kumo or something, he'd be so good. He wouldn't have a word to say because, again, Zulu men think the Zulu patriarchy is the only patriarchy that matters. It's also why, you know what, in other cultures, people are homophobic. But Zulu people's homophobia is so boring because they're like, oh my gosh, they know Zulu people. Guys, this is not a verified fact, but I'm pretty sure Grindr is most used in KZN. Like, oh my God, like, I think Grindr is probably the most used in KZN. Like, there's something about, you know what, actually when I get home, I have to look this up. Let me look it up right now, let me see. Gauteng is the province in South Africa that uses Grindr the most because it's the country's economic hub and about 25% of the national population. But other high Grindr reports come from KZN and the Western Cape. I told you. I told you. I just knew it. Like, in a province that suppresses homosexuality so much, your driver could be LGBTQ. Your sister could be LGBTQ. Hairdresser could be LGBTQ. The African meme. Like, I knew it. Anyway, guys, I have a few minutes left. And if I'm being honest, I've had enough of Nizam Mkhunu. Girl, relax. Like, go do whatever you do on a daily basis and make your money. Like, I promise you're okay with the GBV stats. You're okay with the rape stats, you're okay with unemployment. Like, it's funny, you guys would be like, people are not allowed to be gay. You're also not allowed to beat women, y'all do that. Oh, people are not allowed to be gay. You're not allowed to rape women, y'all do that. Girl, get a job. Anyway, guys, in the last couple of minutes, I have something very quick to say about Charlie Kirk. Guys, Nizam Mkhunu and Charlie Kirk, same thing. And I want to tell you why. You know how I went on a whole rant about how black Christians were being very weird in South Africa about defending Charlie Kirk? But I have something very quick to say about white people that were mourning Charlie Kirk. Guys, remember back in the day, back in the day when white people wanted to go to America because allegedly we were all killing them in farms. Like on my way to the set, I shot a white person. When I went to go pee, I shot another white person. When I go back home, I want to shoot another white person. Guys, white people in South Africa hate being called South Africans. When they were accusing us of the white genocide, that was the first time I ever heard white people saying they're South African. And that was so interesting for me to hear. Because if you've ever gone to school, worked with white people, they cling onto their European heritage. My grandmother's sister's cat's aunt, brother-in-law's wife's sister's cousin's taxi driver is Irish. So this was the first time I'm a true South African. And I was like, And then I'm like, okay, Sharp, you're a true South African. But why do you, true South African, want to go to America? Because America is the only country that offers the same nostalgia as apartheid. That's when I realized it. I was like, it's not because they're going to have better jobs, whatever. They're just going to America so they can call black people niggers without going to jail. In South Africa, right, someone like Charlie Kirk could never have a career. Think about it, guys. Think about it for 2 seconds. Charlie Kirk was going around universities. People are saying nigger, they calling black people. What did he say? Black people were better as slaves. Slavery shouldn't have been abolished. We were better as slaves. He said black women don't have the brain capacity, blah, 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 blah. Hey, rape is okay. If a girl gets raped, she must keep the baby if she gets pregnant. Guys, in South Africa, could a white person in South Africa go to UP or WITS, file a form to have an event, get on the grounds and hold signs saying the K word? They couldn't. And that's why white South Africans love Charlie Kirk. He offers them nostalgia of a reality they once lived. The kids yearn for a dom pass. The kids want segregation back. That's why they were crying over Charlie Kirk. In South Africa, if a white person, Jacques Dupré, whatever, took a sign with the K word, he would be taken to jail. Think about what happened to Adam Katsavelos when he went to Greece and the first thing that came to mind with him was to say the K word. He just misses the nostalgia of apartheid. And in America, right, if someone calls you a nigger, you know what's going to happen? You're going to be invited to podcasts for 30 years. And every time you go on a podcast, do you think when you called a black person a nigger, was it racist? No, I don't think I'm a racist. I think I should call you niggers if I want. In South Africa, a white person could never be invited to Young, Popular and Opinionated after saying the K word. He's going to jail. And that's why white people in South Africa were crying over Charlie Kirk. They were living vicariously through him. But anyway, guys, that's all I just wanted to say about Charlie Kirk before I left, because I forgot to say it the last time. You guys loved him because he reminds you of your Oma and your Opa. But unfortunately, my babe, Pelile. You're gonna be fine. Anyway, guys, racism is low vibrational. Homophobia is low vibrational. They're lame. If you do any of those two things, you're boring. I don't like you. My mom doesn't like you. The Constitution doesn't like you. If you take anything away from this episode, whether you're on a walk at home, remember, homophobia is unconstitutional. It is hate speech and it is illegal. While you ponder on that, I'm going to go home and take a nap. It was so lovely, guys. This was such a lovely chat. I hope you liked it. This was Young, Popular and Opinionated by the brightest star, Lethabo Maluke. See you next week at 3. Maybe next week we won't be talking about... I forgot her name. Sorry. Bye, guys.